You even have a special soup that you call your anti-cancer soup that uses most of the G-bombs, I think everything except the berries.
Yes, and the reason, let me tell you why I call it the anti-cancer soup, because that's a really good thing to point out. And because you can use the same technique, and the reason we call it an anti-cancer soup, you can make it the same technique to cook foods in general. Okay, the one reason is that the myrosinase enzyme in green cruciferous vegetables is heat sensitive. So what we do is we take the foods highest in glucosinolates and myrosinase, like mustard greens, turnip greens, collard greens, and broccoli, Rob, right? We take those greens that are bitter, greens that don't even taste that great if you eat them plain, and we blend them in the blender while they're cold, cold blending them, ladle a little soup liquid in there and blend them into your puree before they're cooked. So we're going to make this green puree before we heat them, before they're cooked. We blend it up so the chemical reaction occurs in the blender because the myrosinase enzyme is in the wall of the cell in a little capsule it's usually broken open by chewing, but now it's broken open by the blades of the blender and allows the chemical reaction to form the ITCs in the blender. And then you pour it into the soup to cook. See, had you added the vegetables to the soup and allowed them to be cooked before they were blended, it would have deactivated the enzyme in the cell walls. So now when you chewed the vegetables or blended the vegetables later, you wouldn't form the ITCs. So we cold blend the vegetables and then we add it to the soup as a puree. Then I take the dirty blender and I put in leeks, onions, scallions, garlic. We take the allium family, which produce all these powerful organosulfide compounds. And the enzyme in the allium family is called alliinase, Alliinase, alliinase. It's the only word with two L's and two I's, or you get triple points for Scrabble. Don't forget that word alliinase, Alliinase, is the enzyme that makes your eyes tear when you cut the onion. When it's raw, it's forming the sulfenic acid and other beneficial anti-cancer compounds are formed in high amounts as you chop open the cell and the chemical reactions occur on your table as you're cutting. So we don't want to put the onion in big pieces in the soup because it'll deactivate the enzyme. We want to put it in the blender and allow this sulfenic acid and anti-cancer compounds to form while it's raw and to form or alliinase puree or an onion puree. So we'll take the leeks, we'll put the whole stem of the leek, the whole scallion, the whole onion in the blender, and we'll take a little soup liquid in there from the top of the soup so it can cream and make an onion puree and keep your head back from that blender and stand away for it, come back and shut it off because it'll make your eyes tear. And then we pour that cold compound that hasn't been cooked into the soup. So we form the chemical compounds that would never have been formed to that level of that degree of effectiveness if we cooked the onion or the leeks first, right? So now we can cook it. And the water-based cooking at 100 degrees Celsius, right? Cooking a soup does not deactivate the anti-cancer compounds that were formed in the blender. And that's why it's called the anti-cancer. That's why we're using those techniques in anti-cancer soup. We're teaching people how to make the soup to maintain the anti-cancer properties of the foods that you utilize in the soup. So you can put chopped onion in there too, but you have pureed onion in there. And we have the beans and the split peas and the mushrooms. Now, mushrooms you just chop up and add to the soup. And we're adding various types of mushrooms, both dried and fresh, including shiitake mushrooms and other types of mushrooms, and maybe a bag of dried mushrooms, because we're trying to go after mushroom variety, not just put one type of mushroom in the soup. Those are some of the features of the anti-cancer soup. And then the other thing is that we're not using like a vegetable broth base. We're actually making fresh vegetable juice to make the base. So I utilize for my people with both autoimmune disease and cancer because we don't want to take 6 to 12 months to bring the level of nutrient density high in their tissues. Excuse me. To enhance the level of cellular nutrition to be much higher because it's the cell nutrition that enables the body's cells to repair broken DNA cross-links that are creating cancer, right? And methylation defects that are creating cancer. So we use a juice that has 3 parts to it. 1/3 cruciferous, 1/3 carrot and beet, and 1/3 lettuce or other types of raw greens. Could be some, but in any case, so it was 1/3 lettuce, and the green cruciferous is mostly bok choy, mostly because bok choy is easy to juice and has more liquid in it than other greens do. And then the carrot and beet. So by drinking this juice, maybe even twice a day, maybe even 6 to 8 ounces twice a day on the juice. So they make the juice on Monday, they make enough for Monday twice a day and Tuesday twice a day. Then they make another juice on Wednesday and they make enough for Wednesday twice a day and Thursday twice a day. So maybe they're making juice 3 times a week in enough volume, because a person's appetite is usually not enough to get all these nutrients into their body, to be concentrated enough to get their levels of nutrients in their tissues high enough, quick enough. Like, I don't have to juice because I'm eating healthily this way for years. But we measure the level of carotenoids in the cells, right? We measure the level of nutrients in the cells, and then we see, well, how fast can we build up those levels high enough? And the juicing helps us bring the levels of nutrients higher over time, because we don't want to take 6 or 10 or 12 months to get the levels up there. So we're juicing so we're blending the juice, and then we add the juice to the base of the soup, because you asked me the anti-cancer soup. So the soup may have, let's say, carrot and beet juice, or carrot, beet, and onion juice, or carrot, beet, tomato, onion juice in the base of the soup with water. So my soup base is half water and half fresh squeezed vegetable juice. And I'm also juicing and drinking that with breakfast and dinner to enhance the person's level of nutrient concentration in their tissues. And of course, doing everything else we're talking about too.